HVAC&R Show, a fortnightly podcast on sustainable heating and cooling technologies brought to you by Shecco and supported by Teco. I'm Charlotte McLaughlin and I'll be hosting today's show from Brussels, Belgium. I'm the multimedia reporter at Shecco. I'm joined by my colleagues Andrew Williams, editor of Accelerate Europe and editor of Accelerate Australia and New Zealand and European editor of Shecco. I'm also joined in Europe by Dario Belluomini from the market development team. I'm also joined from the Asia Pacific by our reporter there, Devin Yoshimoto. So just to start off with, today we're going to be talking about a new report that Shecco Base has put together, also with the LifeFront project, a European project aimed at revising flammable refrigerant standards and improving their safety as well. So Dario will talk about this later. Devin was just attending a HVAC&R show in Indonesia, so he's going to give us the latest updates from the Asia market. And finally, we'll end the show with kind of a preview of Chillventa that me and Andrew will be attending next week. So Dario, maybe if you can start off with the LifeFront project, maybe give us some background information about what exactly it is and also why this report is so important to inform the industry about hydrocarbon standards and their safety, and also like what we can do to accelerate change in the market.
Sure, thank you, Charlotte. The LifeFront project indeed is a European project funded under the LIFE framework program for the environmental and climate action. And it is a project that aims at improving standards for a flammable refrigerant and improving the product design for systems that are using indeed flammable refrigerants like hydrocarbons, especially with a focus on refrigeration, heat pumps, and air conditioning applications. It is a project that started in 2 summers ago, so in summers 2017. It is managed by Shecco, the publisher of the podcast, and other 5 European partners are part of the consortium of the project. They come from Belgium, Austria, Sweden, and Germany. And indeed, we are all working on different work packages, of course, under different perspectives and different activities on improving the standards for the safety, indeed, as you were saying, of flammable refrigerants, and to favor the uptake of these refrigerants in refrigeration, air conditioning, and heat pump applications. And the report that we just published at the beginning of this week is very important because it's the first major public deliverable that LifeFront produced, and is now available, of course, on the website of the project, lifefront.eu. And it was basically market research on the availability of technologies and systems that are using already hydrocarbons and the possible impact on the standards on the future market availability of these kind of systems.
And it's not just focused on refrigeration, but also heat pump and air conditioning applications as well.
Exactly. All these 3 types of categories of systems were considered. And we collected our data in different ways, of course. And the major 2, if we can mention them, are, of course, a wide online survey that was conducted during last spring. So it was quite a long project, is the realization of this report. And we collected almost 500 contributions from HVAC&R experts from all over the world, of course. And then we follow up with some specific interviews and data collection to the leading European companies that are manufacturers of systems using flammable refrigerants to get not only quantitative data about their production, about the type of products that they are indeed manufacturing, but also about their perspective about the evolution of the market and the sector, to get a more overview of what is going on in the sector. And more or less, we can say that the widespread majority of the companies that we conducted and responding to the survey agree that there are 2 major obstacles to a wider uptake of flammable refrigerants in these kind of systems that are, first of all, the standards that are seen as too restrictive at the moment, because, and also as we are showing in the report with some interesting case study about some recent application of these technologies. Now, indeed, technological developments show that with some mitigation measure, like product design or building a certain store, for example, in a certain way, following all the safety procedure, it is possible to use in a safe way higher charges of hydrocarbons and still minimizing the risk for flammable consequences and explosions. Another problem for the use of hydrocarbons is the lack of trained technicians. That is something that unfortunately we see in every major conferences or events about the HVAC&R sector. It's something that shecco is working on also with this kind of report to raise awareness about the possibility of these natural refrigerants. And I don't know if you have any further questions about.
Yeah, maybe like to delve in further into the report. Like you mentioned that there's ways of mitigating the risk from hydrocarbons being in systems. Like maybe if you can explain some of the types of things like the equipment manufacturers can do to mitigate the risks. I think that would be quite interesting.
Yeah, mitigation measures can be indeed of some different type. For example, some aspects of the mitigation measures are pretty technical. They depend, of course, on the design of the product, on how the system using flammable refrigerant is designed, and how it is positioned in the store, for example. We've seen that just positioning the electronic socket to which a fridge is connected above the fridge, so will reduce the risk of explosions, for example, because the flammable refrigerant gas is lighter than normal air in the atmosphere, so there will be no possibility for it to get in contact with the electricity circuit of the store, for example. So mitigation measures can refer both to technical aspects like the design and the construction of the system, but also on how the system is eventually used in its final location, its final applications. Then connected to this, of course, there are the issue of some non-technological barriers, like indeed, as we were saying before, awareness raising about this kind of system, how they should be used in a proper way, how to train technician and maintenance services on how to indeed maintain this system in a good and proper way. So I would say the mitigation measures cover different aspects that we are investigating in the project indeed. And for the more technical ones, we are working on putting together a database on leakage size and other leakages aspect, for which we indeed invite all the companies that want to be interested in contributing to the project to also get in contact with us to understand how and what we are doing and to contribute.
How can they get in contact?
They can go to our project website, livefront.eu, and there is a section that is named Get Involved, in which they find all the information and our email, so they can see what we're doing and how to contact me and the other project members.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks very much, Dario. So Devin attended a HVAC&R show in Indonesia, in Jakarta, and I think you have some really good updates from the show about the market.
Yeah, it was a trade show, and just connecting on just adding on to what Dario was talking about with the Lifefront project, this discussion about hydrocarbons is important for everyone here in Asia Pacific also, because we have a very important symposium coming up in Japan called the Kobe Symposium, where they'll be discussing the safety and standards for hydrocarbon use in Japan, where we're seeing a lot of interest there. And then also here at the trade show that I went to, the trade show is called R&HVAC Indonesia 2018. And it's one of the biggest trade shows for the HVAC industry in not only Indonesia, but in Southeast Asia as well. One of the things there too is a lot of developments with hydrocarbon refrigerants also. One of the big stories that we covered while we were down there was the launch of this new R290 powered ice block making machine that's also solar powered, so not connected to the grid at all. And one of the biggest opportunities for natural refrigerants that we saw at the show was in the fishing industry in Indonesia, because the government in Indonesia is looking to grow their fishing industry, and the only way they can do that is by increasing the production of the fisheries on the outskirts. As you know, Indonesia is really big, and for all of the fisheries that are far away from the big cities, a lot of times they don't have access to power and electricity. So this was a project done in cooperation between the Indonesian and the German governments, where they partnered up together with technology supplied from Germany, and then locally developed and supplied manufacturing and production capabilities in Indonesia, coming together to make these systems, these R290 solar-powered systems that make ice for fisheries in Indonesia, far away from the city. So this will really work to help show the potential for natural refrigerant technology in Southeast Asia and so many different sectors, especially that sector. And one of the other things we saw...
So that you also heard about other technologies as well, like there's a lot of like ammonia CO2 systems. It seems like, people are really trying to reduce their charge of ammonia as well.
Yeah, we spoke to a lot of the technology suppliers at the show, and a lot of the interest in natural refrigerants is coming from the industrial side. One of the biggest growth opportunities in Southeast Asia is the cold storage, logistics, cold chain distribution, and it was one of the main topics of the show, as opposed to food retail or the commercial side, which is still really in its early stages. Some of the suppliers we talked to, for example, Mayakau, who is one of the biggest suppliers of natural refrigerants in Indonesia, was telling us that they've already supplied around 13 systems of their ammonia CO2 refrigeration systems for cold storage and logistics facilities in Indonesia. And it's not only them, but a lot of other suppliers were talking about how the interest in reducing their ammonia charge has to do with trying to keep the ammonia out of the food processing or the production sections of their facility, and reducing that charge, increasing their safety, and then also getting energy efficiency benefit also on the side. So yeah, a lot of opportunities we saw at the show is dealing with the fishing industry, cold storage, logistics, and the cold chain industry in Indonesia. So we're really excited to see what is going to be developing there over the next couple of years.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Devin, for your time. We just have time to talk a little bit about Chillventa. So Chillventa, as everybody knows, is one of the biggest HVAC&R shows. Thousands of exhibitors, lots and lots of attendees and stuff. So I think there will be a lot of interesting technology there. Andrew, I think you know how many natural refrigerant companies are attending. It's a lot more than last year, right?
So as you mentioned, it's one of the biggest and most important HVAC&R trade shows in the world, Chillventa. So it's a good barometer to assess how the market for different technologies, but especially from our side, we're interested in natural refrigerants, so to see how the natural refrigerant market has evolved in the 2 years since the last show, because the show's held every 2 years. And just as a comparison, so at the 2016 show, we estimated that there were 188 companies there exhibiting natural refrigerant technology. This year we expect at least 260, and no doubt it will be more. Our CEO, Mark Schasser, he's estimating it'll be around 300. So we're expecting to see a significant evolution in not just the number of companies offering natural refrigerant-based technologies, but also in the competition between those different solutions with natural refrigerants. So overlapping in certain sectors such as commercial, we're expecting to see more competition between CO2 and hydrocarbons, and in industrial we're seeing CO2 making inroads into ammonia's share of the market too. So this is what we're expecting to see. We're excited to see whether these predictions play out at the show.
And do you think there will also be some advancements made in heat pump and air conditioning applications?
Yeah, so in Europe in particular, obviously the commercial refrigeration sector is quite well advanced, and the other sectors such as heat pumps, etc., are sort of less well developed now for natural refrigerants. But as heat pumps themselves become more popular in the energy system of today, so can we also expect natural refrigerant based heat pumps also to grow, but we'll find this out next week.
All right, well, stay tuned for the next episode of NatRefs Show. That's it for this week. We just have a quick word from our sponsor, Teco.
Hi, my name is Andreas Meyer. I'm managing director of Teco. What is Teco? Teco is a rack manufacturer based in Germany, near Frankfurt area, and we are now over 36 years in the market manufacturing racks. At the moment the business is quite challenging because there's a lot of movement going into the direction of natural refrigerants. So we are ready and prepared. We did our first CO2 transcritical rack in 2006, and nowadays it's getting more or less a commodity in Europe. But actually we are now here in Asia. So we just want to start up Asia. 2 years ago we founded a company in Singapore called Teco Asia, and now since 2 months we started our production facility in Bangkok in Thailand to cover also the Asian market, because we believe in that Asia is an upcoming near future, very important for us as a rack builder, for natural refrigerants. At the moment it's still Freon, but I think the change will be soon and will be fast.
Thank you, Andrea. See you in 2 weeks' time for another great NatRef show.